PlayStation, a great company that made a great game. Today we'll be talking about probably the strategy that I will be using to play out Final Fantasy VII. That's what I'm planning on doing today on this fine evening. We'll get started right off the bat. Squaresoft logo, and we're gonna get started. Alright, new game. Here we go. And of course, we first start out the game by seeing the first character that appears. First, we see the stars. The stars are very plentiful in this particular cutscene, and they are quite lovely in this particular scene. To be fair, the effects are still renounced as one of the best effects that they've actually done in Final Fantasy games, but this is one of those wonderful effects that just looks pretty nice even to this day. So we're going to skip on ahead. Let's see if we can get to a more formidable spot here. Eventually we'll break away into meeting our first character, which would be Aerith the Flower Girl. That is the first character that you meet up in the cutscene. Then she notices something, walks into the distance, into the main city, introducing the main setting, which is actually the city of Midgar. So we're in Midgar right now. It's very plentiful. There are citizens, there's motorcycles, cars, you name it. And they got, I think, 7 reactors, I think, or 8 reactors, I'm not entirely sure. But there it is, the introduction to the best game of all time. So, now we're going to get into the main part of the story, which is where the train arrives and we get our main character introduced. We're just going to zoom right on in. And we have the train arriving. And that's where the story gets even dicier. So that's where we meet up with Avalanche, the main group of this particular story. They beat up these 2 soldier guys. And that's where we get our main character, known as Cloud Strife, entering the scene. Flop, and he enters in. And we're going to be moving in to begin the story. And he's going to have a potion. There we go. Potion. In this part of the game, I try to collect as many potions as possible. It does help out in terms of strategy-wise. For later on in the story, it does come in handy. Just letting you know. And we're going to be using magic on these guys. We're going to be using ice. Yeah, there we go. Ice magic. They just got ice cubes. And we're getting attacked here, so we're going to probably use Bolt next, or I guess more ice. There we go. And we're moving on forward. And we got some EXP points there, so we're moving on through with the story. He's gonna have another potion, so we're gonna collect the potion. Then we're gonna head on down this way. And we are gonna go over here where we meet up with our Avalanche team members. And we're gonna be doing that for a couple of scenes here. And these are just the formalities and the introductions to the character where you give yourself a name. Doesn't matter what name it is, but I'm just going to go with the standard. I'm going to go with Cloud on this one. And of course, you get the main introduction to another main character here, known as Barrett. We're just going to give him a name, but I'm just going to call him Barrett because I just look at the standard names. Of course, he doesn't like us very much at the very beginning. So we're just going to give him the name, and we're going to go right on in. And there's something weird with the camera, so either way, we go in. So, now that we're here, we're going to move on through. We're going to move right on through to the main reactor that's in the scene. Basically, this is Midgar. It's a very bustling city. They got reactors that power up the city through energy that comes from the Mako reactors that power up from basically like the energy in the land, essentially. And that's actually what powers up the city. It's the energy from the land, essentially. And we can use magic and stuff like that, but that's a different explanation altogether for a later time. But that's basically materia, what we're using to actually use the magic to use ice and bolt and all these other abilities. So, we're going to move on forward. We're going to go through the reactor over here. This is the right way to do this. It's basically essentially a walkthrough, if you will. And of course, this is the first time in the reactor. We're going to be moving on forward. And this is the explanation behind the energy that's coming into the actual city, in terms of the setting, in terms of the machines that are doing all the work. Then he basically says he's going to accompany us, so we're going to be doing that. Going to open up the codes here. And we're going to move on in. Decipher the next door. Now we're going to collect an extra item on the spot, which is going to be, I think it's a Phoenix Down, if I'm not mistaken. That's usually when your character's KO'd, you can actually bring them back using that particular item. Very useful and very handy. And we're going to keep on moving through the reactor here. Push that button. I'm going to push the button of the elevator. Yow. At this point, Cloud has basically explained that basically these machines are bad and they're draining away the power of the planet essentially, and that the planet is dying essentially is what is going on. And of course, he just doesn't care. Usually, it's just the way of Cloud reacting to this whole scenario. He's kind of cold throughout the entire scenery, to be honest. So we're moving on through. And now we're going to move on down through the next part of the reactor, which is these pair of stairs. There's a lot of stairs in this game. You gotta climb down a bunch of stairs, actually. I'm not entirely sure why there's so many stairs. I guess they wanted to do a realistic approach to reactors in general, but that's pretty much how this goes. But there's a lot of robots. All the enemies are robots or machine types because we're in a city, so I guess it makes sense that they would make them all robots. But it's basically to show off like a form of like how life in general is in this city. Like they are futuristic. They have robots roaming around in the reactor that guard the place, I suppose. And it's supposed to be like a futuristic place, I suppose, Midgar. That's basically the environment that you get into the setting, essentially. These little robots, they carry a punch. So we're going to keep on moving, using bolt magic to get rid of the robots because electricity and robots don't really match. Of course, neither does water, so ice would be a preferable option. So we're moving on through. We're our main man, Barrett. We're going to be moving on through. We're going to go in through this door. And we're going to make a jump here and get further instructions as to where we're supposed to go. And we're going to go on to the bottom here. There'll be a potion. Collect all these items because they're very handy. Potions are very handy. We're going to talk to Jesse for a little bit. He's going to give us more instructions on how to climb down the ladders. We're going to keep on moving. Alright, now we're moving on through the pipes. And this should be your first checkpoint, essentially the first saving point of the story. So what we're going to do is save the game here really quick. And that's pretty much what we're going to do for this particular video. Just save the game. And we're going to save it right here. There we go, #1 reactor. And we're good to go.